Yo, good afternoon or good evening rather. It's a good old Sunday here in Jackson, Mississippi, and we have a very good conversation about to commence quite shortly. Brother Marcus was sharing some great things momentarily, just now, and I'm definitely going to get into that because this is very inspirational, and I want to know more, especially regarding the topic that we'll be discussing today. My name is Kemar Kane, coming to you all the way live right here on Facebook. Big shout out to Women for Progress Radio Network and the beautiful ladies who helped to conduct and construct what is happening here on this evening. We are going to have a very informational, enlightening, and heartfelt conversation centered around crime as well as other issues within the city of Jackson. But gentlemen, it's not just the issues that we want to bring up. We want to be able to talk about some solutions too, right? So I had the opportunity to introduce myself. If we would, starting on my left, start with Brother Collins. Introduce yourself and we'll go around the room.
I'm Joseph Collins, principal at Boyd Elementary School.
I'm John Spann, Program Outreach Director at the Mississippi Humanities Council.
Damian Portis, owner of the Extraordinaire Company.
Marcus Landfair, owner and operator of Hopeful Barbershop, executive director of Hopeful Community Outreach.
Yes, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen who are watching with us live, first and foremost, thank you for taking time out of your Sunday evening to kick it with us. I definitely want to start with you, Marcus, and you know you shared the meaning behind hopeful, right. And I want you to and you know as time goes on, I may ask you again as we get more and more people to come in. But I want to know because hopeful is an acronym, correct?
That's right.
What is hopeful? What does that stand for?
Hopeful is hopeful opportunities provided for everyday unique learners. When I couldn't read and write at the age of 24, special ed education, God gave me hope. I didn't know anything about God, but he sent two elderly white people to come and aid and assist me in the county jail, where I did 3 years, 7 months without being convicted. So they inspired me the vital importance of reading and education. So they taught me what it was to be able to be a productive citizen, and I utilized it while I was there.
So understanding that you had some time to sit down for a little while, is it okay for me to ask why you went in?
Positive.
Okay.
It's fine. I went in for manslaughter.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought you had something else. Okay. So with crime, you say you were 24?
24, yes, sir.
At that age, right, what would you say from your past led up to some of the actions that you did and then having to face the consequences of those actions? What were some of the things that you dealt with personally that made you act in such a way?
Growing up without a mother and a father, being mentally ill. They labeled me mentally ill like around the first or second grade. Put me on medication, not having the father figure in my life. But I ended up joining a gang. You know, I was around guys that misled me to believe, you know, they loved me and they cared about me. So it was about respect and power. So me not knowing is like someone that's being led by a rope or a string. You know, they manipulated my mind to make me believe that, hey, I love you, you do these things, and this is what it's going to be, and we're going to get respect and power. And that's what misled me to go into a lifetime of crime.
Wow. And still, you know, being a young man and being molded in that way, it kind of sticks with you, right?
Exactly.
So, in school, you were labeled, again, what now?
Mentally retarded.
Mentally retarded. Now, Brother Joe, principal at Boyd Elementary, and shout out to Joe Collins, look this brother up. He was just awarded, what was the recognition recently?
It was just community recognition for some work I've been doing at Boyd.
So Joe Collins, he likes to be modest, ladies and gentlemen, but the brother's doing phenomenal work at Boyd Elementary. Shout out to JPS. You have one amazing principal on your hands. Now, understanding Marcus's story,
Yes, sir.
right, and you seeing various kids throughout the school years, you know, I was once in the education system myself as an educator, and I remember talking to my principal at one point, and she had mentioned it was so negative, and I'm like, why would you say that? And then she kind of explained why. I would like to hear your take on this as well. She mentioned that by the 4th grade, certain students by how they act within that grade, they will either be in the prison system or in jail or gang banging or what have you, just doing stuff they have no business. What's your take on that?
There are multiple theories about, elementary students that are illiterate by the time they're third or fourth grade. Really, the data is focused around third grade because a lot of the literacy test scores in the different states come from third grade test scores. But if by fourth grade you're also showing illiteracy, then they do, there is this dynamic that you won't make it, or it'll just be, challenging for you to move on or move through society because you're illiterate. And it will be. A lot of things, take literacy in our lives. Everything does. And so by that time, you have to read to learn instead of learning to read. You're learning to read between kindergarten and like second grade, third grade. And then after that, you're reading to learn. And so if you're illiterate by the time you reach fourth grade and everything is positioned, to, dependent upon reading, and you can't, school moves on, and you sit stagnant. And, crime happens because of that, because that person can be preyed on, you know what I'm saying? And so.
I know when I taught 10th graders, I was the only teacher that could really deal with, I guess, the bad kids, if you would. The
Yeah.
principal would send some of the guys to my room, and I would kind of study these students, you know what I mean? And, some would act out because they couldn't read and whatnot.
Right.
I would pull them in the hallway so that they wouldn't feel embarrassed or anything like that. Like, hey, let's figure out what you want to do. And I had a moment at Jackson State recently. I was on campus and I bumped into one of my old students, and it was a proud moment for me because he said that at the end of our conversation, he said, "Man, Mr. Kane, I really wish them other kids had a chance to experience you."
Yeah.
I want to talk with you, Brother Span, about the importance of, mentorship, being guided, what helped you, I guess, steer you in the right direction to maybe even not look in crime's way, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, growing up, my father passed away when I was around like 7, 8 years old. So my mom, when we were in Columbus, she moved us back to Jackson because she's from. She's from here. And I had the blessing of having my grandfather, my uncle, her brother in my life to really kind of like give me an example of what a man should be and like give me that father figure kind of thing. But I would say really I credit like when I got into college and I credit one of my professors, his name is Michael Vincent Williams. He actually wrote the book Medgar Evers, Mississippi Martyr. And he invested his time into me and saw that that I had something that I couldn't see in myself at that time, And another because when I was growing up, I really didn't have many black male teachers anyway. It was a lot of either black women or white women. And I didn't really have too many black male teachers in the classroom that was actually invested in me. It was either like a coach or something, it wasn't like somebody teaching me algebra or science or something where like I could say, okay, well, I can be a scientist or I can see myself being a doctor or something like that. Like it was around my community, but I couldn't see it in like black men in the classroom until I got to Mississippi State. And so with him helping me just kind of like navigate through things and come up with solutions for myself. And then also as a black man, use history to, because I'm a historian, so like.
This man is a walking history book.
But how to find my place and myself in this world, and then how I could give back to it. So I definitely credit my grandfather, my uncle, and then also Dr. Michael Vincent Williams, who, like I said, a teacher that I never had growing up, but when I found somebody like him, like I latched on to him because he was a positive representation of what education could be. for someone like myself. And then also he was looking at me and telling me that I'm a positive representation for others, you know. And so taking that on and being responsible and being accountable for how I carried myself in the academics, in that standpoint, I had to take it seriously because I had somebody who I looked up to basically saying that, like, other people are looking up to you. So you got to be a little bit more responsible with how you carry yourself with your work ethic. And, you know, if you really about this black thing, about this black history stuff and this education and stuff and giving back, then you got to walk it and not just talk it. So.
Yeah, let's talk about mentorship a little bit, if you don't mind. So, mentorship, how important is that in 2024? You know what I mean? Hearing about some of the things that happen within the city of Jackson, throughout the state of Mississippi, right? You know, I didn't necessarily have my father in my life. We hear a lot of stories about a lot of black men not having their father in their life. Brother John Span just mentioned a few brothers, family, and other people who assisted him along his way. How important is mentorship in your eyes?
Mentorship is very important for several reasons. A lot of young men don't have a vision for what they can be or what the world has to offer. Me coming up, I ended up being a graphic designer, and when I went to college for the first years, I didn't even know that that field existed. I didn't have anyone to introduce me to that. So when I came up, all I knew, I could draw, I could paint, I knew how to cut hair. I'm gonna be an artist. So I was in almost my third year of college, and when I found out what a field graphic design was, and it blew me away. Now, nowadays, people get introduced to that even in high school. I mean, they can learn to be a graphic designer off their cell phone, right? But what happens in mentorship is you introduce and desensitize young men to the struggles of life, and you also introduce them to the possibilities of what they can reach for. Because if they don't have any hope, we lose them to the streets, we lose them to what they see on television, rap videos, or what they see that is being glamorized, or what is being marketed as making it. And so when you are able to see a young man, or like Brother Landifer, he can tell kids that I've dealt with this, I've done that, and you don't have to make that decision. Most times when they don't have mentorship, they feel that whatever problem they're facing, they're the only one facing it.
Yeah.
They feel that everything's closing in on, and nobody understands me. But when you have another adult man who's walked this earth and can tell you, hey, that's it, that's all you're dealing with, that's going to be over with tomorrow. Life goes on. You don't have to make a split-second decision that's going to change the rest of your life today based off your emotions.
So, Jackson, Mississippi, the state of crime. What are your thoughts on, like, some of the most recent things that have happened? Out of everything that's been shared, everybody's story, everybody's position within the community, like, you know, recent stories that you may have heard on the news. What is your take on the recent events in the city of Jackson?
I'll take that. Me, I feel that it's a lack of men standing up being men. We got men that are age-wise considered to be men, but their heart is shredded due to the fact that you got guys that done been in organizations like myself and other guys that got the influence to help young brothers or sisters, whether black, white, rich, or poor, and they choose not to. They will sit back and turn a deaf eye or deaf ear to the crime. And most people know their victims. Most people know the people that done crime and that are doing crime. Not that you got to be what they want to call it, a snitch. But if you got the influence to influence some more brothers or sisters to put the guns down and pick up a book, you should do it. And I feel that we are failing our younger societies because we won't. We can see them with a big old gun walking in the stores, and the first thing we'll do is not go back to that store. Instead of calling them off to the side, be respectful and say, excuse me, can I holler at you? I do it all the time. Some of them might receive it, some of them may not. But being bold with standing with Christ, I do it. And I learned for Christ I live, for Christ I die. If I die today, I know where I'm going. Most people don't. So therefore, I'm not trying to make it be a religious thing, but if we don't stand for something, we're going to fall for anything. And if we're not a part of the solution, we're part of the problem. So if we're not looking into the problem for the solution, we're part of the problem. That's what I think.
I get a chance to work with kids at a very early age, and that opportunity allows me to proactively block some of those issues. I like to engage in children's identities. Become something early enough, and you won't have to get defined by society. And so making them explore themselves and asking them questions and making sure the classrooms that they're in are inquisitive and welcoming, all of that helps them, nature and identity. And so by the time they reach middle school, high school age, they don't have to join anything or find anything because they are something. And so particularly, I don't really look into the crime unless it involves some of the kids that are that are in my school. If their families are affected by it, then I'll get interested. But I try not to just, it's depressing. Just just being honest. So I block it.
Anybody else want to take that on?
I feel like there is strategic divestment in education, strategic divestment in infrastructure in Jackson to make people feel like Jackson is not worth saving or worth rehab, whatever you want to call it. I think, I was just talking to him about earlier before we started about just education in general and how if you have Boyd Elementary compared to with the resources and things that they have compared to like a Northwest Rankin school or even like a Madison school, like Madison Elementary School or something like that. Like, people are divesting out of Jackson, divesting from Jackson, and then it seems like there's pushing of crime or this perception of crime, right? Like, to me, crime is everywhere, right? And the thing is, the perception of crime helps people feel safe. So whether you perceive crime to be low or high in an area, you could die any day. You can get robbed anywhere. You could, it doesn't matter what part of Jackson. You could be in Madison County at the Renaissance, and you could get jacked. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So I'm saying that this whole perception of crime and like also the perception of the leaders here, like they don't care. They don't do what they're doing. And then you have, since you're bringing up stuff that's going on, you do have leaders that are now in the spotlight for not good things. And so it just helps add on to this negative connotation when you bring up Jackson, Mississippi. And I think if we, as Marcus said, if we can work together to be the solution and take care of ourselves. I'm not blaming the white man. I'm not blaming nobody for anything. If you take care of your community, and then you build from that, from what you can do, I think we could help change that perception, because we all live here in Jackson and we're thriving. We're making money. We are, we have our families here and things like that. And I don't plan on leaving. I don't think y'all plan on leaving. So what are we going to do to continue to change that perception and work together to help kids feel safe, make sure that they're not being preyed on. But then also, if those resources are not coming to us, how can we work together to supplement with education,
I believe that communities have to pull together, man. We can't keep doing everything alone. It's good that each individual is making their way, but until we join hands, we can't band around anything. A whole bunch of people just standing right beside each other can be infiltrated, but to me, particularly in our community, we don't reach out to the next person anymore. Now, it is something that in the past has happened. You know, some of our ancestors, some of our grandparents, we can see that those neighborhoods are tight knit. We either move away from one another or we just don't stay tight knit or get to know one another. And so I think if we had more opportunities to have conversations like we having right now, and you know, have opportunities for communities to organize consistently throughout a month, you know, more people would get to know each other and problems could get solved because solutions be in the room.
But okay, you're right. But like those, like the 13-year-old that gets left behind, that ends up in the game. Like you said, like you read Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, talks about what you were talking about, how at third grade, after the literacy scores are turned in and things like that, instead of building more schools, they're building jails to get ready for that new crop of people, or new crop of young men, especially young black and brown men, getting ready to go to jail at between like the ages of 15 and 16 years old. How does the community work to get those young men from turning to crime? And then also too, like at third grade, when you see that there are students that are not literate or are not going in the way that they should be going for the next grade, how do we save them and not make them feel like they are a waste of time? Because I don't know the answer to that.
Once again, I think it just comes back to community. If I know this young man, or I know somebody that knows this young man, and somebody has something that could support this young man, we could connect one another if we knew one another. It's just it's a degree of separation that's, I don't know, we just sometimes, we don't get to know one another or spend enough time, in my opinion. And I think if we had those opportunities too, then young men wouldn't fall through those gaps, because there'd be somebody to catch them. Well, I know that young man. Let me talk to him. And there aren't enough men stepping up. There aren't enough men saying, "Okay, I want to join the band." I love that JPS has the Watchdogs program that invites dads to school. More men need to know about that so that they can get invested in that program, so that we can create that band. You know, not just for crime investment, but for skills investment. You know. I was just listening to this young man talk about his having to do plumbing at his shop. You know what I'm saying? These are skills that if we transition across, our community, we'll never have to look outside. Now you're protecting the money in the community.
That's right.
And so it's just, we've got to band together, in my opinion. That saves a lot of the issues.
So I will pose the question, why is it so hard for black men to get together? What is it about us, pride and ego, I guess, that makes it hard for black men to get together?
I would say pride and arrogance.
Yeah.
We always want to be the number one. It's just like a bucket of crabs. If Joker got a shop and he's doing good, I'm going to act like I really want to see it, but then the jealousy, just like Cain and Abel when they was in the garden. Abel offered the better sacrifice to God, and Cain didn't, so he got jealous. Jealousy is a big part of us not combining in unity. Instead of coming together as a whole, you think about it now. Every year since I've been in Jackson, it's 75 to 150 young black men getting killed every year. Why shouldn't we come together? We can't blame the white man. We can't blame the governor. We can't blame the mayor. We can't blame the police. We got to blame ourselves, because if we're not in unity, we're divided. If we can't walk in unity, we're divided. So what's stopping us to coming together? Our pride, our arrogance, because we got what we got and we don't want to share it. That's my opinion.
I would definitely agree with what Brother Landolph said. I would also say that it's a lot of other factors that play. Depending on the demographic of black man you're talking about, it's a different type of issue. So if you go with the less educated sometimes, or even the highly educated. It's more of a competition. It's more of a jealousy. If you deal with the middle class and the upper middle class, you're dealing with men who are trying to take care of families and they're trying to provide. So what happens there is, because they're trying to spend time to make sure that my family can eat, they got clothes, that my son gets to go on these field trips, I can't be there.
Yeah.
And so when you draw that line to say, hey, we need this guy here, we want you to come down here. Well, if you pull that man off his job, maybe they're not able to afford to come. Now, these are some cases that are really exist, and you can almost run that back to keeping the man busy, keeping him occupied. And then when it gets into pride, I've seen guys, especially running a barbershop, and we've all seen this with a lot of men, to where they care so much more about how they look, they don't even take care of their family.
Right.
They come in with the shoes, the clothes, they getting their haircut every week, you know, and man, they're not even spending time with their family because they're competing with an image of looking as if I got it.
Right.
And so if you rewind all the way back to what they talked about earlier about education, teaching people their self-worth, you know, those are the core elements that can change the trajectory, but we have to get there. And it's an attack on us having time to be there, us having time to help educate, us having time to step in. I do a lot in the community. I do a lot with community organizations, and I work with young men all throughout the week, including my sons. And even the Watchdog program, they've invited me to come out, and I love it. But man, I do so much already. So sometimes what happens is the ones who you're trying to get involved are already in another ministry. Their time is already taken up somewhere else. And so what we have to do is galvanize, teach, educate other men to get them to come in and step up, because the ones you see here, you know, getting us together, when we leave, we got our own mission.
Yeah.
We got our own mission. So, you know, when you see me, hey man, come to Watchdog, man, we need you at Watchdog, I'm heading up something else over here.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the kids are seeing the same four brothers everywhere. And so that's that. But again, we get back to jealousy. We get back to trying to appropriate something that is worthless, and we don't have the education or understanding to know any better. You know, and so these things create that type of discord in our community.
You made some valid points. Because, I mean, you know, I'm in my pretty much mid-30s at this point. You know, this brother about to get married, Joe got his family, I got my family. You know, it is a lot. And, you know, even just hearing that, I mentally got exhausted just a little bit. Because it's like, we do a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on in our daily lives, and then you want us to tackle everything else that's happening outside of my own life.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned earlier, that responsibility though, right?
Yeah.
Right? We do have that responsibility. I think it's super difficult to try to me personally, a work-life balance, I don't think there's no such thing. you know, it's just, I've tried it, and it's like, dude, this is hard. Okay, and it's a lot of weight on our back. But I wanna go back too, because we talked about quite a bit already. What's sticking out in my mind right now is the fact that it's not enough recreational things going on for the black youth, right?
Yeah.
You know, various programs, like you said, you'll see some of the same brothers and whatnot. You know, I know Joe and I had a conversation a while back, and he had an initiative that he wanted to try. But, you know, you'll have brothers sign up, but then you won't get the brothers to actually pull up. So it looked good on paper,
Yeah.
but nobody's physically being there. You know what I mean? And I think you said it, and you said it about blaming the man. You know, the 70s term, the man. Like, it makes me question, do you think that us as a people, are we a dependent people? You know, are black men, understanding what you just said, but I'm still going to pose the question. Are black men lazy? Are we too laxed? Is that why crime is happening?
No.
Black men are laxed, lazy, and there's nothing going on for the young people. Like growing up, we had parties back in the day that kept us out of trouble. They kept me out of trouble because we had parties like middle school, all throughout high school. Of course, you had fights here and there, but nothing too crazy. And then we made our own fun. That's not really happening now. So what do they have to do?
Well, black men are not lazy. No, I'm going to stop you right there. I will say this, that I don't think there are enough things for young people to do. I will speak on my experience when I was young. My mother made sure that I was in a lot of things. So like, I was a Boy Scout, became an Eagle Scout, was in the Youth United Way, Advisory Council. So y'all who know Miss Doris Bridgman from Tougaloo, she ran that. I was in the Symphony Orchestra, Youth Symphony Orchestra. So like all these, like my mom was like, I can't, I got this one male son, and she basically was like, I'd be damned if I let the, streets or something negative happen to him and he become a statistic. So I'm saying too with that parents have to be more invested in their children. You may not have the money to put them in everything, sure, but there are a lot of, I would say there are programs out there where kids can be in something, out of trouble, and it not break your pocketbook, or it could be free, and it's just a matter of finding it and the matter of being invested and making sure that your child is taken care of. But a lot of times people just don't know. There are things out there for their children to do. They just don't, their parents are not aware. So.
Anybody else? Okay.
I got something I wanted to say. Yeah. No, I do not think black men are lazy. I don't think young black men are lazy. I think that anyone can be programmed to be a certain way. So you can take a young man who's very energetic and very smart, and you can put him in an environment where if he's not challenged long enough, where things aren't required of him, he will develop different tendencies. And over time, that brother will display what people label as lazy, sorry, and he's going to adopt and adapt to whatever environment that is intriguing at that time. So what ends up happening is that we're in a society where, because we don't have a lot of things going on, kids get involved in other things. It becomes a different, something different turns them on or gains their attention because we don't have things. When I came up, I played baseball for the Royals. Baseball was really big all over the city of Jackson. The Cubs, one of the coaches gets his haircut at my shop now. Baseball, soccer, all sports. And then it was all types of community activities. And we played basketball every day. Every kid in the city played every sport. Every kid in the city was decent at every sport. Now, they weren't stars, but it was activity. It was activity. And I remember in 90, in Jackson, and it was 95, in 1995, 96, brother got killed at North Jackson Elementary. We used to play basketball up there every day, every weekend, and he got killed there. And when he got killed, they took down the basketball goals because basically young people were having activity at the schools when people weren't around, and this led to that type of thing when no one was there to regulate them. And that sort of thing happened throughout the city in a wave as preventative measures of letting young black men come together and do things. It was like, hey, they're wilding, let's destroy these type of things where they get together without guidance. And so now that was in 95, and it's it's 2024, right? So now look, when the last time y'all rode down the street and saw kids just hooping outside on a regular?
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask, like, where do you think it started? And it sounds like that was a bit of a start there, and instead of taking down the goals, and I don't want you to lose your thought. Instead of taking down the goals, what do you think should have been done initially to where kids can still go out there and play ball and not have any further crime or whatever happen in that way?
Well, I would say this. because and I haven't just analyzed the matter, but I do know a lot of times we make drastic decisions because people want to see results.
Yeah.
So we don't research all the possible scenarios, what's going to come from that. It's just like, hey, this happened. We can't figure out how to fix it. How do we pacify and make everybody fine, right? And so we do something that everybody feels like we're taking it seriously. But it's not well thought out. It's not really something that's going to really even fix the problem, but it looks good. It looks like we got some action, so now we can go on to something else. And so what happens is it wasn't just that. We had systematic things like that that happened throughout Jackson. And when the brother talks about earlier how just when we have city officials, they get caught up in things, and it doesn't help to the look of Jackson. So when we have systematic things that happen, they look at you like, hey, we don't even have people in here who can control it. So what we're going to do, this is going to be the best course of action right now, because temporarily I don't even want to see them out there. So I've seen them out there, and so we do that, and then we cookie cut that towards something else, right? Because now we don't see them out there, we solve the shooting problem. Now, same thing at the football field, same thing at the soccer field, right? So instead of us addressing the issue, instead of us getting to it, creating a program, getting somebody like Brother Landifer, getting brothers to go out there and let's talk to these guys. Let's see how they feel about what happened. Like, let's see what we can do. Let's dig deeper. We come up with the solution of let's get rid of it, right? And now this is where we are.
Yeah.
You know, over time, a bunch of things like that. So,
And for the record, real quick,
Okay.
I know black men aren't lazy.
Yeah. No.
But I posed that question because I'm sure it wasn't your first time actually hearing that.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
like you kind of have to be on the defense in that way. And I don't want you to lose your thought.
I was to say we weren't lazy when we were picking that cotton. So you know what I'm saying. So that notion comes through white supremacy and everything. We not lazy.
John gets very
I'm
passionate about that.
So I will say this too about activities, because we think about sports, and sports is, like it can definitely help with that, but like everybody's not good at sports, right? And then what about all I'm saying is that there needs to be more things, more diverse activities for young students, whether it be reading, book clubs, whether it be, like I said, scouts, or learning AI and like robotics and things like that. Like there are groups out here now working with teens and JPS and other places, trying to get them into robotics, just like we have in our more affluent areas. They're already going through robotics at like fifth, sixth grades. They're learning this stuff. So like, how do we get engaged those kids that don't want to necessarily be a LeBron James, but want to be a Steve Jobs? Like, how do we get and influence young kids to also think about like money, and think about investments, and think about, okay, well, this is how I need to manage my bank account. This is what I need to do. Like kids who, like we were talking about trades earlier, like everybody doesn't need to go to college. College isn't for everyone, but we know that you can still be somebody and make something of yourself even without college. So how do you help those young folks become entrepreneurs, business owners, things like that, and get them in touch with folks who have been there, done that, and can show them the way? It is more than just, and I know that's not what you were saying, is like sports and stuff, but we've got to think outside the box to do a catch-all, because somebody's going to slip through the cracks for sure. Everything's not going to be perfect, but we got to do something. And just like you said, which is very smart, you can't just be drastic and just do something and just think that we're doing something. You took the basketball goals away. Okay, we're helping. Actually, you're not even researching that. It's hurting in some type of way. How do we actually talk to the community leaders and the students themselves? That's another thing. We don't listen to the young people. We don't know what they want. We think what we know is best, and we're not listening to them. Because I know, like growing up, our parents were like, well, I know what's best for you. Well, you sure do. You may. But also, I think that young people should have a say in the things that they want to see going on in their city too.
Agreed.
Man, that thought went and gone. Nah, just joking. I just want to, black men are not lazy, but they done got content.
Okay.
So many people get content with, I got my family, I got my house, it's happening over there, so I ain't gonna worry about it as long as it don't come here.
That's it.
I ain't mad if his barbershop get broke in, as long as it ain't happen here. So I might know who brought his clippers over here to, hey, these clippers, I got them, you want to buy them. I don't buy stolen stuff, right? So you got Ronnie Crudy Jr. from New Horizon Church in South Jackson, pulling together with people. They got the art. They doing things to invest in kids. He called me, we doing prayer walks. We can't get 10 men to do a prayer walk. And prayer changes things. So then we got Better Men's, which is here. We got a group of men's, white, black, Mexicans, that's coming together to build other men's up, to discipleship men's. We don't know. A lot of us don't know. We hadn't been raised right. And the Bible said, train a child in the way he or she should go. And when they old, they won't depart from it. So therefore, we think education is all that.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of education and no common sense and you going nowhere. So therefore, we got to utilize what we have to help educate other people. So therefore, we need strong black women, strong white women. We need Mexican women. But we need people that's going to stand, be consistent. Yeah, you're a principal. I see you at school, but I don't see you nowhere else.
Right.
So you tell me this at school, but then I see you in the grocery store, you don't speak to me.
Right.
So how can I even have the phantom the thought that you got my morals and my values in perspective? You don't know when I go home, I have to take the roaches from the cereal and still eat the roaches with some water.
Yeah.
That's what I went through. But God put people in my life to show me that you can be a man and you don't have to have all the riches in the world. You just have to work by the sweat of your brows because of Adam and Eve. So therefore, we got to reach one, teach one.
Yeah.
So we got to be a village. We got to be that village, regardless of who we are. So no men's are not lazy. Ronnie Cruder Jr. is showing that. They got the art, and it's something coming up here. And I'm going to be a part of it. I'm going to be a part of the Better Men's.
Yeah, I'm glad to learn about that and about what you just said at New Horizon. How long has that been going on?
Man, Mr. Ronnie been doing it about a year or 2 years. They got an art, they got a gym, they putting a skating ring in it, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Men's are coming together, and he's drawing. He's the state representative. He's drawing people. God is working through him to help other people, but you don't got men's that's saying, hey, I'm going to stand up.
Right.
Because we want to say, well, it ain't my problem.
Let's
I ain't gonna have
definitely, I want to connect with you, brother, of course, with everyone here. I want to keep up to date with what's going on over there. And then speaking of state reps, man, perfect segue, because I was going to ask that next. So imagine we're at the Capitol, okay? We are amongst the state reps, the policy makers, the lawmakers. You know, what's some things that we could let them know happen in the city that we want to see happen in Jackson? Like, what can we say, hey, we need this in the city of Jackson for this? Because a lot of people don't know, like, there's a lot of money to be given away. A lot of this money goes to a lot of the wrong things because a lot of people don't know about it, right? And then, you know, mentorship, there's a lot of mentorship dollars out there in grants, but again, a lot of people don't know about it. So again, they spend that money on something else, or they have to give that money back. You know what I mean? So we at the Capitol, we suited and booted. What we telling the people that we need in our communities?
I'm going to go small.
Okay.
Hopeful community outreach. We got a small food pantry back there. But by the grace of God, we feed over 150 families every other week.
Wow.
Mr. Ryan can tell you, he done been here. And we've been trying to partner. My wife and I, we buy it out of our pocket, buy food, and some people donate some money in. Some good white people. But we can't get our own to help, because that's going to help these young brothers and sisters that's coming through here, that the grandma got the grandkids because the mother is on drugs. I want to tell the legislature, we've been trying to get with Mississippi Food Network to donate food so we can not only give them food, but give them an opportunity to get jobs. Like we with service specialists. So people say, well, we can't get jobs. Well, most people can't get a job because they're a convicted felon, right? So when I came home, they wouldn't let me get a job. So they kept that felony on my back all these years to keep me down, to keep me oppressed. So it's just like you got a knee in my back. But you say you want to see people succeed and be successful in society, but yet and still they go to prison and we get rehabilitated, but yet and still you won't take that off our back so we can't get a good job. Who can afford something at well, I don't even know what minimum wages is. But who,
Yes.
okay, you got an apartment, you got a house, okay?
It ain't
You
happening.
got daycare, okay? Come on now. Then, if you go to, what is the project or whatever the housing that they get for women, the women's can't let the black man come and stay with them because the government gonna cut them off. So now you done divided the houses. So we need to come together and really see what's really going on. You talking about his money out there. I don't know a lot about writing grants. And when you get with people, they say, well, I want to help you. I want to help you. I want to see it change. But do you really want to see it change?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, changes, they occur systematically. I was thinking about the way that JPS is investing in co-curricular activities at the elementary level to get kids who are may not be interested in sports, but they can sing or they can dance or they can play music. Any other, thing that they can do outside of the mainstream co-curricular activities. And so that's a system that supports development of identity and development of skills and all of these things that we want in our community. We have to do the same thing with mentorship and outreach. You have to have a system for it. If you want the change to occur, then you have to plan and organize. And so when things like this occur and next steps occur where we pool resources or we inventory who's in the room, a conversation has to be planned, to drive the movement forward. And I think if that occurs, if we inventory our things, like we were saying that there's a whole lot of activities people just don't know about them, but let's create an inventory of those things. We got to be systematic if we want these things to occur, and we've got to actually do things. And so identifying the persons who can do that task is of most importance, and we do that first by inventorying the room. And so I just wanted to make that acknowledgement to say, if we truly want to transform mentorship for black boys and black adolescents, whether it be female or male, we have to find out who has the what and then offer it to the need. But we do that based on connections and identity.
Yeah.
I would like to say this, and this is definitely based off of what Brother Landiford shared in the question about what would we want to ask those in power in the city, what we need. From what I can tell and what I do see, a lot of times with a lot of the businesses that we have, especially the African-American businesses, we got a lot of people who are doing business in Jackson, but they're not doing legit business. And what I mean by that is, no, they're providing a service, but their business is not set up accurately for them to receive those grants. Because we know when you're trying to get a grant or you're getting federal aid, you got to have all those T's crossed and all those I's dotted. Jackson is a place where people haven't really paid attention to it, but Jackson is a place where a person can have a mediocre business that's not really set up legitimately on the back end. It could operate in Jackson for years. And they'll sit around and they'll be, man, they don't give me these grants. I can't get these grants. Well, these businesses don't have insurance. They may not have a real operating license, but they've been able to operate in a city like Jackson in Mississippi, who downtown, whether it's with the police department or it's with the city, they're backed on all types of roads and everything. So these people get to operate. And so when those grants drop, these people can't qualify. So what I would say to the city is that create a program that educates these business owners how to be qualified for their grant before the grant drops. Right. Go ahead and when you see these grants are coming and no one's getting them, but the same people in Jackson getting these grants.
Okay.
Because if you look on the road, you will see those, right? And you see plenty of businesses that you ride by for years that are underdeveloped and could use that facade, that infrastructure, that technology advancement, right? You see all these people and they like, we don't know how to do it. Create a program that says, hey, we're going to get these businesses up to snuff. Or we're going to educate them on what they need so that when we do drop this grant, they qualify. Because a lot of people don't understand the small things that eliminate them out of those grants. And one of the things that is in those grants is that most of the businesses have to have the capital to first pay for it before they get reimbursed. So most times when we get back to a lower education, lower income city, most times these businesses, they don't even have the capital to make that improvement. They know what they need, they know what they want, they've written it down, they've been hoping and praying for it. And so as soon as they get everything ready for that grant, they say, okay, go buy it, bring us the receipt, in 30 and 60 days, we'll get it, we'll get you back. Man, these businesses don't have that type of time. I was one who received a grant, and I was fortunate to be able to wait out that 90 to 60 days. But I'm going to tell you this what happened. This was in 2012. I think they had a misappropriation of funds with the grant. So the city of Jackson came under investigation for it. So because they gave out money, again, people were giving out money to their friends and people who didn't actually fill out the package right. So when the federal government did an audit on we want to see where this money went, they had froze everybody. So people who legitimately did the packet, you had to wait.
Yeah.
Because they got to figure out if you was in the buddy system or if you legitimately did it, right? So for a business like mine, instead of 30 to 60 days, it took 7 months, right? So imagine if I drew up a plan, right, that you told me in 30 to 60 or 30 to 90 days that, hey, if y'all, want to redo your shop, get TVs, get computers, get new furniture, we approve you up to $20K. And we'll reimburse you. Once you get qualified, we're going to reimburse you between 30 to 60 days. Man, we're gonna pull in teeth to make that happen. Off the word of the city of Jackson that they're going to give me that money, and at least the worst I got to wait is 3 months, right? And then because what they did, the citizen gets penalized. And so when that happened with me, I had they came out and they had to look at my building to see where the computers were. They asked me for the boxes. I said, man, listen, that's been about 4 or 5 months ago. I don't have them boxes. That could have, listen.
But you had the receipts.
But I had the receipts, right? But this goes back. So when we talk about what's happening, with the city officials and things like this, we've had these things going on for years.
For sure.
And this is years after they took down the basketball goals. Yeah. This is years after they got rid of the programs that help our youth, right? This is years after they get rid of the YMCAs and places where we used to hang out. The programs where we used to hang out and meet people from different neighborhoods at Tougaloo, like Jackson State, back in the early 90s and 80s when, man, it was 1,000 kids out there jumping in the swimming pool, right?
Right. Like, where's that? Where'd the YMCA go? I would also say, too, to what you were saying, Mr. Lanifer, is that I'm a firm believer that, once you have paid your time paid your debt to society, that I feel like your citizenship should be reinstated. Because if you are working as a business owner, as a tax-paying citizen of Jackson, and you cannot vote, you cannot have a say in who represents you, that is taxation without representation. It was the same reason why this whole country became America, right? In the Revolutionary War, fighting against taxation without representation. And because it is happening to more black and brown men, it's not an issue. We just let the 13th Amendment, the clause that said, slavery is abolished, except if you are a product or ward of the state, or, if you are in prison. And so when you come out of prison, though, and you're a full-fledged working citizen, you paying taxes, doesn't make sense to why you can't also have your say when you vote on who represents you. Another thing I would say is, where the recreational places that we have in Jackson are very limited, right? Downtown is not a downtown, and Fair Street has so many hopeful things hopeful ideas going forward, but never actually came to fruition, you know? And there's a lot of ideas going around for Jackson. You see like this, this whole plan to like create like a beach and I forgot what is this? It's called like the two. Is it the one lake? No, two rivers or whatever. Okay, right now with like different folks like David Farr and even Jack Allen and some other folks. They've got this whole thing like going on. So it's like a beach, and then they've got like the UMC corridor for the cancer centers and all that stuff. Like all this is an idea that's coming up for Jackson, but like it seems to me like some things like that, like are they really helping the actual people who are living in Jackson, or is it creating Jackson to be more gentrified, right? And so like I would love to see the legislature actually put money into revitalizing these areas to where folks can go and shop, hang out, you know, you look at the 60s, pictures of Capitol Street, these are like Paramount had I mean, it was segregated for sure, but still like it was lit up, you know, like you had a lot of businesses, you had a lot of people here that was investing in the city and people hanging out even through like the 70s. And Fair Street was still kind of vibrant, but it's just sad to say that like, you know, especially on Fair Street where there was a black hub, the only thing there is like Johnny T's, the church, and Frank Jones Corner. I don't think it's there. I don't know if they're still doing stuff there, but like, you know, like it would be great to see more stuff and like in the bookstore, you know, like the bookstore that's there. But man, it would be great to see more black businesses and more black business districts to showcase what Jackson is, and not just necessarily in downtown, not just necessarily in Fondren and Belhaven, but like South Jackson, West Jackson. You know, it's to me it's a shame that Jackson State and downtown hasn't come together to create like this big corridor, you know, to connect Jackson State to downtown and make it a more bustling environment and have like grocery stores and things for the students to take part in instead of having to go wherever to do things. And then you see, you know, there's a lot of folks who are sending their kids to Jackson State. Jackson State's a great place, but then when you come off the interstate and you come down Lynch Street and their parents are from Cincinnati, they ain't never seen Jackson before, and they're like, oh, should I bring my child here? Like, is this, you know, these are what people are talking about. I'm just being real. This is real talk. I'm just being real. So, like, how do we make the Highway 80 corridor better, bring that back, and keep it black? Because as soon as we do that, you know, it'll be gentrified. But anyway,
I just want to, you said, what would we ask the legislator? If we had 10 white people or 10 Mexicans or 10 Indians getting killed every year versus 175 to 100 blacks, what would you do different? If you had every store in Madison, Rankin County, closing like South Jackson, they don't have the Dollar General anymore, they don't have the churches anymore, they don't have the Popeyes anymore, they don't have the grocery store anymore. So you taking everything out of that area and you leave it in a poverty-stricken area and you don't have jobs, what do you expect for the people to do? On another note, you got one or two people that's buying up all the properties and they live out of state. But yet and still you make it so hard for someone that's a convicted felon to get a job, not just because I'm going to work. If I had to pick up cans, back in the day I had to pick up cans, and I don't know if y'all might, I look young, but I'm 50 years old. They had the trucks with the big rifles and the white people would ride past and they'll throw a can at you and laugh and cuss you out. But we dealt with that. My mother was a call girl, just like some of the stuff that's happening in South Jackson. It shouldn't be happening, but we turn a deaf ear to it. But yet and still, the legislator's still getting paid. What are we going to do different? Are we going to sit back on our do nothing and do nothing? Or are we going to probably find some solutions to solve the problems.
I challenge all y'all right here because I'm actually going to the town hall meeting coming up this week.
Let's go.
I want to see y'all. I know if you're able to get out, Joe. I know me and a couple of brothers are actually going to the town hall meeting this week. Like we got it. We're gonna do this, like you say. Like let's do this.
Yeah.
And then we talking about, we say this every year. There's a major election going on, but as we know, we got the presidential election coming up as well. And it's great to focus on that as well. But, again, these town hall meetings, one coming up this week, and just focusing on, like, who is in office now, because a lot of people don't even know who's actually at the Capitol. A lot of people don't know every position at the Capitol. A lot of people don't even know
Who they
what
state
all
representative
happens at the Capitol,
is.
You know what I mean?
But you need to know who your city councilman is.
Right,
too.
know who your city councilman is.
Who your
So, that's something
supervisor.
that we can all educate our brothers on for sure. But y'all get out there and vote, man. I got the signal. Any final thoughts before we check up out of here? But that is my challenge to everybody, to every brother in this room and every brother watching this right now. Let's hit up this town hall meeting this week and listen.
Can you tell me
Come
the day and
suited
time?
booted and you
Date and
know,
time. Date and
Day and
time.
time?
Date and time. I think it's the
Uh-oh.
I think it's the 5th at 10 a.m.
That's the excuse we'll have. Uh-oh, didn't know.
I think it's the 5th, but if you look on the city's website, you'll see it. I think it's the 5th at 10 a.m. if I'm not mistaken.
We'll
But,
write it down and put it on Facebook.
Yeah, put it on
Please.
Facebook, and then I'll post it myself on my personal pages. But yeah, pull up, man. Put on something decent. I ain't saying like wear a suit or nothing like that, but look like somebody. All right, but that's it, man. Appreciate y'all brothers having this conversation. We talked crime and other issues within the city of Jackson. My name is Kemar Kane. You're tapped in with Women for Progress Radio Network. We'll see y'all next time, man. Thank y'all for joining us tonight.